taking notes from nobody.
Your superstars have off games.
Follow us on social media at Celtics Talk Weekly.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Celtics Talk Weekly. I'm your host, Ian. I am with my co-host, Seamus. Seamus, how you feeling today?
I'm feeling pretty great on this Friday, this windy, gusty, rainy Friday here in St. Louis. But the Celtics, they're in the Valley of the Sun, much different weather out there. They take on the Phoenix Suns tonight. I don't know how well anyone is feeling about this game coming into tonight, knowing what we know about the Celtics in the recent stretch. However, there's some hope. No Ayton, no Booker. So there's some hope tonight. But again, the Suns team is pretty good. So Celtics, I feel pretty good in general. But for the Celtics, I'm a little iffy tonight.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm not going to lie. We talked about this Celtics Suns game a little bit at the end of the post-game show. We talked about what we think the Celtics needed to do to win. Now that there's no Booker, now that there's no Ayton, what do you think the Celtics need to do to win tonight?
Well, I still think the game plan stays the same. You have to get up and down the floor tonight, and you also have to get scrappy on defense tonight. I mean, the Celtics, they've hung their hat on the defensive end of the floor for most of the season. In this recent stretch against the Lakers, against the Jazz, and against the Clippers, their defense a little bit in question in 3 of the last 4 games outside of that Blazers game. And even that game, you gave up about, 115 points, I think it was. And right now, the Celtics, they need to get back to what they've been doing on the defensive end, which is closing out hard, contesting shots, communicating on that end of the floor. And also, as I mentioned too, they have to get up and down the floor and defend in transition and also get out and run in transition. We've seen this Celtics team in the past, obviously not the same team as recent years, but this Celtics team, this franchise has been really, really good when they can get out and get running up and down the floor and get easy points in transition. This year, it just really hasn't happened. They're in the bottom 10 in transition points, in fast break points this year, and yet the Phoenix Suns, they're near the top of the league. So you need to hide that discrepancy tonight, and you also just need to start developing that part of the game because this modern NBA, it's a fast-paced league, and the Celtics, they need to catch up at the end of the day.
Definitely, I agree. And, I mean, we said this last game with Paul George being out, and we're like, now that there's no Paul George, this should be an easy win against the Clippers. But, maybe we overlooked that a little more. Hey, I mean, shout out to Brandon
Boston as the next Paul George, I guess, because he just replaced his numbers, essentially. That's what happened.
Why not at this point? But yeah, so I think I agree with you about the defense. The defense needs to step up. We were talking about this also about the defense not looking very good over the last couple games. Now, I don't know if that's due to fatigue or, maybe there's, some little more fun in LA than, meets the eye. But, whatever it is, the defense hasn't been great. And if we want a chance to beat the Suns tonight, I feel like the defense is going to be really important. Now, that moves us into our key matchup tonight. And so our key matchup is Jayson Tatum versus Mikel Bridges. Now, Mikhail Bridges, he has had a great season so far. He has been one of the best defenders in the NBA. If you guys didn't watch the first game against the Suns and the Warriors, you saw that Steph Curry was getting absolutely put in jail by Mikhail Bridges. And we know Jayson Tatum. He had one of those games where, the stats looked good against the Clippers, but in reality, it really didn't look too good of a game with the 6 turnovers. So, what do you think Tatum has to do to get the best of Mikal Bridges tonight?
Well, he has to stay aggressive and also hunt switches against this Phoenix Suns team. With so much personnel out, there's bound to be some mismatches on the floor because if you look at their roster, Phoenix, they're going to be a little bit smaller tonight. No Ayton in the lineup. Obviously, no Frank Kaminsky either or Dario Saric. He's been out the whole season. So this Suns team, Booker too, he's a little bit of a bigger guard too. All those guys, you take those guys out of the lineup, this Suns team becomes very, very small. And that's when you have to hunt switches and hunt mismatches. And that's in the position of Jayson Tatum or anybody else on the Celtics, whether it's Dennis Schroeder or Josh Richardson's not playing tonight or whoever else is handling the ball tonight. And looking from the side of Phoenix, Mikel Bridges, I mean, he's one of the breakout players of the NBA over the past 2 seasons. He I believe, signed a $90 million extension with the Suns during the offseason, and that was much deserved. I wish they would have paid Ayton. They should have paid Ayton. We'll talk about him in a second. But Mikel Bridges, he's one of the best wing defenders in the NBA already. Sucks that the Philadelphia 76ers don't have a guy like Mikel Bridges right now. But this guy, I can't say enough good things about Mikel Bridges. He's beyond your typical 3-and-D player. He's much more than that. He's somebody that brings a certain level to the Suns team. We saw it in the playoffs last year, and I'm sure we'll see it again tonight. He's certainly making his case to be on an all-defensive team this year, and maybe even Defensive Player of the Year in the future, in some future year. And Mikel Bridges, Celtics, Tatum, they're going to have a lot of trouble with him tonight, but you have to hunt those mismatches on the side to, shy away from this really, really good defender.
Definitely, and I'm kind of excited to see what Tatum does against Mikel Bridges. Now, I'm not sure if we faced a guy that's as locked down a defender as Mikel Bridges is this season so far. We faced teams that are really good defensively. I mean, outside of obviously Kevin Durant, and Kevin Durant is Kevin Durant. But, it'll be interesting to see what Tatum does, because Tatum can sometimes struggle if his shot's not hitting early. Now, moving into the injury report, we did see no Devin Booker, no Deandre Ayton, no Jaylen Brown for the Celtics, sadly. He's missing his 5th straight game with the hamstring injury. No Bruno Fernando, and no Josh Richardson, who sadly was put into the NBA's health and safety protocol. So, what's the game plan here? What is our keys to the game tonight for the Boston Celtics against the Phoenix Suns?
Well, I think, I said it earlier, you have to push the pace against this Phoenix Suns team. If you're not pushing the pace, if the Celtics come out like they did in both LA games, where they look a little bit, well, certainly in that Lakers game, where they just look lethargic getting up and down the floor, they just didn't have the energy. And then go to the Clippers game, they started that game out not ideally either, and they picked it up a little bit throughout the game, but it never really reached levels that you want to see this team be at. And they weren't beat in transition that bad, or I don't even think they were beat in transition against the Clippers, but they certainly had their moments where they just didn't play as fast as they probably should have on either end of the floor. And tonight against the Suns, they're one of the fastest teams in the NBA. And with Chris Paul at the helm, they love to get up and down the floor. And like I said tonight, they're going to be a smaller team, so they're going to put an emphasis on running us up and down the floor and running us every time they're on offense. I mean, this Phoenix Suns team, if you can get guards out there, and I talked about hunting mismatches. If they can go on the other end of the floor and just tire out our defenders the whole game, that makes a huge difference in the clutch moments of the game in the fourth quarter, when, say, if the Celtics do keep this close, who's going to be the team that outlasts the other? And also tonight, if you let Phoenix get out in transition the way that the Lakers or Clippers did at moments of that game the other night, Phoenix is going to put points on the board fast. They have a lot of shooters who can take and make a lot of threes. And if the Celtics, they fall into that hole, as we've seen many, many times before, it's a really, really big climb to climb up out of that hole and mount some sort of comeback or lead, because we've seen it a million times this season. Celtics go down early, they can't quite come back, and that's the game. They can't do that against the Phoenix Suns tonight. They have to come out with energy, and they have to come out and run the floor early and throughout the night.
Definitely. And, my thing is on the defensive end, we've struggled the last few games. You can go back to the Jazz game, but, that was a little bit of a fluky situation. The Jazz hit 27 threes. That's kind of insane. And then ever since that Blazers game, which they absolutely dominated, the Lakers, they did not play very well defensively. They did not play very well defensively at all against the Clippers. So they definitely need to tighten up tonight, because even though Devin Booker and Ayton are out, they still have Chris Paul. And it doesn't matter what team is around Chris Paul will find a way to make it so that his team will win. I remember I went to one of the last games before the NBA shut down back in the 2019-20 season, or 2020, whatever season that was that they were in the bubble afterwards. But I went to one of the last games before that, and it was the OKC Thunder versus the Celtics. And, you thought, easy win, Not with Chris Paul, because Chris Paul stole the ball from Kemba Walker, and the Celtics ended up losing that game. So
And
defense is
that was
going to
the
be really
last
important.
game. Sorry to interrupt you, but that was the last game at the Garden until December of that year.
Which I also went to. So I went to the
Yeah,
last. I went
in
to
person.
the last one with fans, and then the first one with full capacity back at that playoff game. So let's move into some over unders here. Fan favorites. So my first over under tonight, and this one's going to be interesting. So who gets more assists tonight, Marcus Smart or Chris Paul?
Oof. You know, Chris Paul, he's without his role man, Deandre Ayton. And, Devin Booker, he scores off of isolation a lot, so maybe not too much in terms of missing Chris Paul assists from Devin Booker. You look at the other side, though, Marcus Smart, no Jaylen Brown tonight, but that's been the case most of the season, so it's almost a non-factor at this point. And then no Josh Richardson tonight either. I'm going to have to go Chris Paul. I think Chris Paul, it's more likely that he gets 8, 9, 10 assists tonight rather than Marcus Smart, who's usually putting up 6, 7, 8, somewhere around that number. So I'm going to go Chris Paul over Marcus Smart tonight, although I hope Marcus Smart, if you can get it done, that'd be great.
Yeah, I also agree with you. I think Chris Paul is going to get more assists tonight. I feel like it'll be close, though. I feel like it'll be one of those things where, like, Chris Paul gets, like, 9, and then Smart gets, like, 8, or vice versa. I hope Marcus Smart gets more assists because that means, more easy shots and a lot of made shots, which is going to be pretty important for the Celtics. Now, we've done this one a bunch of times, and it's come with mixed results. So bench points. It's going to be important. No Josh Richardson, no, and Dennis Schroeder is in the starting lineup. So over under 25.5 points for the bench tonight.
Well, the last time we did this, it was 30.5. And then the time before that, it was 25.5. Grant Williams is coming off the bench tonight, though. And they still broke it in that 30. They had 32 against the Lakers. They kind of took some garbage time there at the end to propel them over the mark. I'm going to have to go over tonight. I think if this is a fast-paced game, they'll have a lot of opportunities. And if I said this the other night, I think the only two scenarios is this is a close game and it's fast-paced, or it's fast-paced and it's a blowout in the Suns' favor. In that case, a lot of garbage time, a lot of exposure for the bench players, and potentially a lot of points from that time. So I'm going to have to go over 25.5 tonight.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take the over too. I mean, we've seen some mixed results when it comes to the bench this season, especially because a lot of the time at least one main guy has been out, whether it be Richardson, Langford, whatever it is, and they always seem to bounce back. So it's good to see that this bench actually wants to play and is actually competitive and is able to be put out onto the floor, unlike last season where it was just a train wreck last season. So
Grant Williams, and who else was coming off the bench last year? Mo Wagner, Luke Cornett,
Peyton Pritchard,
Peyton Pritchard, seventh man,
rookie Pritchard. That he was like our best bench player last season, which is kind of crazy to think about now in hindsight. But let's get into our key matchup. This kind of involves our key matchup here with Jayson Tatum. Now, Jayson Tatum, as bad as the Celtics have looked a little bit in this December so far, he's kind of lit it up a little bit. He's had 30 points in most of the games this December. Even last night, he had 29, and I think the other game he didn't score 30, he had 27. So, does Jayson Tatum go over or under 30.5 points tonight?
I think looking at the situation tonight and what really happened the other night at Staples, I don't think Jayson Tatum is satisfied with his last couple of games, I would say. I mean, I don't really know, numbers-wise, they were okay. But I thought from his end, there were definitely moments in which he definitely, probably doesn't look fondly upon. So I'm going to say that Jayson Tatum does go over 30 points tonight. Like I said, could be a fast-paced game. And also, there's going to be more opportunities for him in general with certain guys out of the lineup tonight. No Brown again, obviously kind of a non-factor at this point. And then no Josh Richardson too. Josh Richardson, he's been a pretty, hefty scorer over this past stretch here, this past couple of weeks. He's actually been putting up some pretty good scoring numbers. So say a couple of those opportunities go to someone else or Tatum tonight. that could be something that adds to Tatum's total, and I think he'll go over 30 points tonight.
Definitely,
Even though
definitely.
even if he's matched up on Mikel Bridges all game, which could be hell, who knows?
It could mean another rough shooting night. We've seen the rough 2 of 18s, 7 of 30s. Those kind of rough shooting nights from Tatum this season so far. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen with Mikhail Bridges tonight. So as much as I feel like it won't happen, I'm going to take the over because I feel like Mikhail Bridges is going to give Tatum a run for his money tonight, and if Tatum wants to score, he's going to have to get past one of the best defenders in the NBA this season. So, and now it's a primetime game, ESPN. Celtics have had a lot of those primetime games recently, which is kind of interesting to see. Not like we talk about the Celtics anyway.
December Gauntlet.
Exactly.
Calls
so,
for 'em.
Now I think we did this last night, and I'm trying to get redemption here. Over under. Do the Celtics win at halftime? Are they winning at halftime?
I don't know. Is this a smoke screen right here where the Celtics, last game we're all going over because there's no Paul George and they should come out and win that game. And then they go into halftime down 13. Like coming into tonight, theoretically thinking we don't have a chance. Although certain injuries I think would say that we do have a chance. Is this going to be a night where we lead by 2 at halftime? I'm not so certain. I'm going to go no. We're not leading at halftime tonight. No.
All right. Well, we've agreed on every single over-under so far. Sadly, we have to disagree for this one. I'm going to say the Celtics do win at halftime. I'm not going to say it's going to be by 30 or anything, but, I feel like they could at least be up by maybe 2, hopefully. It's wishful
Could
thinking,
happen.
but, you have to be. You have to have wishful thinking because, it's the NBA. You still got to play the game. It doesn't matter who's on the other side. We saw it firsthand last night so that's always fun.
Well,
so those are the
also,
over-unders tonight.
You also have to think, though, too, is the big man matchup in this game, is that going to play in the Celtics' favor or not in terms of this halftime lead or even the fact that we might pull this game out? No Deandre Ayton tonight. And if Robert Williams and Al Horford ran off the floor, Phoenix is going to take this game. If they're not ran off the floor, if we play at our own pace, if we get Rob involved in the offense, play him a little bit more, run more action for him. Horford, we talked about hitting those pick and pop threes or those 3-point opportunities he receives anyway. Whoever wins that battle, I could definitely see the Celtics leading at half. I'm not going to say they're going to lead at half because I think it's more likely that Phoenix comes out and plays their game and plays it to perfection or near perfection, unlike the Celtics on some nights. But, it's a possibility. I'm not saying that we're not going to win this game or we're not going to lead at halftime. I'm going to go against us, though.
Yeah. So
I just said
we're
not going to lead at halftime, even though I'm betting that we're not.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
So I mean, it happens. So
yeah.
Quickly before we have to sign off, let's get into our jersey matchups because if you guys don't know, the Celtics statement jersey is my favorite jersey that the Celtics have. Out of all the jerseys that the Celtics have gotten over the years, the statement one, the black statement one, has always been my favorite. So, what do you think of this jersey matchup tonight, Seamus? And do we bring out the headbands? Because in Portland, we wore the headbands.
I think it's a good night for headbands. But this jersey matchup, on the other hand, I think it would have been better in October if we saw this. It looks like a Halloween jersey matchup. I'm not too fond of this color combination of black and green with the bright orange and purple, but it's kind of festive. It might look better out on the court, but I would like to see this. I always like it when we wear green in Phoenix. And say last year, I think we wore green and they wore their Valley of the Suns jersey where the black jersey that they still have, the city jersey, I believe. That was a really nice matchup. So that matchup compared to tonight's not as good, but I know a lot of people, obviously you involved, love the statement jerseys, so it's fine. It's fine for tonight.
All right. So let's get into the starting lineups tonight. We have Schroeder, Smart, Tatum, Horford, and Robert Williams for the Celtics. And for Phoenix, you have Chris Paul, Landry Shamet, Mikel Bridges, Jay Crowder, and JaVale McGee. Now, Celtics tip-off is going to commence in about 6-ish minutes. But you also know that it's ESPN, so ESPN will wait
Well,
the extra 15 minutes.
We should mention
Any
too,
final thoughts before we go?
The Nets are up by 3 over the Hawks right now with 3:49 left on ESPN. So probably starting after that game. I have no idea. Might be on ESPN too. Not sure. But final thoughts here. Celtics, they certainly have a chance tonight. They don't pull out this game. I said this in the group chat earlier. They might be under 500 until nearly Christmas or maybe even beyond Christmas if they don't win tonight's game, because then you have tough schedule coming up. Milwaukee, Golden State, the Knicks, and the Suns again. So there you have that tough slate coming up. This is kind of a big game in terms of, if they finish this one out right, you go home feeling a little bit better about yourself. A 4 or 5 hour trip to Boston from Phoenix. You feel a little bit better about yourself coming off of a win, but if not, feel pretty bad coming back 1-4 after a West Coast road trip. After you go over 500, now you're back down under 500, and now you're going against even tougher competition. And this could be a turning point for the Celtics if they win this game. Who knows? But if they don't, prepare for a lot of narratives over the next 2 weeks when this team is just probably flatlining below 500 for a while.
Yeah, I mean, this game is kind of it's kind of a big game for the Celtics. This is kind of it, man. This is kind of a tipping point in their season right now. It's like, are we gonna go under 500 and then face the Bucks, the Warriors, the Knicks? Are we gonna do that? Are we gonna go under and potentially risk being 4 games under 500 and then, maybe we win tonight and we go on some crazy run. But that is almost time to be done. Now, we do have a special announcement for you guys that are fans of the Celtics Talk Weekly. We have our co-host Rob, and I think Justin is returning tonight. They're doing a play-by-play of the Celtics broadcast. So, if you guys wouldn't mind, you can watch Rob and Justin break down the game as the game is going along. You can also watch me on my stream on TikTok, but I 100% suggest you guys go watch Rob and Justin's stream. It's probably going to be a good time, honestly. I might pop in from time to time. So
you guys have to collaborate somehow.
Yeah, there is a way to kind of do that where you can like do multiple people at once on TikTok, but it's kind of a weird thing, and it doesn't really work out too well in my opinion. So you guys definitely make sure you guys watch the play-by-play tonight with Justin and Rob. That's going to be very entertaining. I'm definitely going to pop in. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you guys are following us on social media at the Celtics Talk Weekly on Instagram and TikTok, at the Celtics_Weekly on Twitter. You can follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Celtics Talk Weekly. So, that is it for this one. That's Seamus. That's Rob doing the behind the scenes. He's doing the behind the scenes. Let's see if we can get him on screen for 1 second.
What's up, boys?
Thanks, Rob. Hey, any promo for the play-by-play tonight, Rob? Before.
Yeah, guys, come in. Me and Justin, we're gonna try something new. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Come in, and Justin will be kind of doing a play-by-play. It'll kind of be like a little Mike Gorman, Scalabrini, little 1-2 duo. So definitely come check that out. Right after this is done, we'll be live doing the play-by-play. So come check it out.
So who's Scal? Who's Scal and who's Mike?
He'll be Mike. I'll be Scal.
All right. Make sure you guys check out. It's going to be fun.